Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy IX. Last time, we found out so much about Terra and Gaia. Most importantly, that Zidane was artificially created to aid Garland's plan for Terra to absorb Gaia. So he's off, following Garland into Pandemonium to learn more about himself, his heritage, what all of this is about, because it was a lot to suddenly be dropped on him. And Aiko's rounding up a couple of characters to go after him, because this might just break Zidane a little bit. Also, I hope you're ready for a pretty cool exposition dungeon, but an exposition dungeon nonetheless. Each dungeon in FF9 is really good about advancing the plot and not just being this big chunk of filler, empty carbs in the middle of the game, where you start the dungeon knowing one thing, and maybe you get like a little morsel of information by the end. Every dungeon in FF9 pushes things forward significantly, but a couple more so than others. This Pandemonium being one of them. Like, a few in particular are just straight up here for lots of dialogue. This dungeon, by the way, is a reference within a reference. It directly references Pandemonium, which was a dungeon from FF2. Even the music in most of Pandemonium is an arrangement of the Pandemonium Castle theme from the second FF. And then Pandemonium back in FF2 was made to reference Lucifer's Castle in Paradise Lost. So we kind of know about all of this. This is more or less recapping. Garland created the genomes as vessels for the souls that he was essentially going to steal from Gaia during this slow and steady absorption process. And that's a bit of a revelation that Garland's other, I guess, chosen emissary, chosen genome, is Kuja. And Kuja was sent to Gaia by Garland along with Zidane. We already knew that the two of them were in cahoots, but we have a more clearly defined picture of their relationship, and more importantly, what Kuja is to Zidane, which is akin to a brother. And that Kuja's just been hiding the tale. When he received the gift of life in Bramble, Kuja couldn't bear it. So Kuja pretty much kidnapped baby Zidane and abandoned him on Gaia because he was jealous that Zidane was eventually going to become more powerful than him. And thus, this is sort of a daddy issue, isn't it? He was worried that Garland was going to favor Zidane more, which, to be fair, that's exactly the case. Kuja can't enter trance naturally, and Zidane was gonna be Garland's correction of the mistake that he made with Kuja during Kuja's childhood that prevents him from entering trance. Zidane was created explicitly to be superior to Kuja. Kuja turned out to be a mistake in Garland's eyes, and Zidane is the solution to that mistake. And that's why we see so early in the game Zidane entering trance. They want to make you aware of that mechanic and that story beat as early as possible, because it does become really important. And like I was saying, between Hollow Knight and FF9, getting a little bit of cross-pollination with all the talk about vessels, a lot of talk about Radiance going on lately. Yeah, Kuja got massively jealous of his kind of brother. And both of them, their sole purpose was to be Garland's Angel of Death on Gaia. To speed the process along, to start wars, and to kill as many Gaians as possible. To wipe out the entire planet of humanoid life, so that their souls would migrate on over to Terra. And then the souls would inhabit the genome vessels here, and it would be the rebirth of the Terran civilization. Which, yeah, FF9 gets real weird and convoluted right at the end. But Zidane refused to change. Even after knowing all this, he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna be an Angel of Death. I'm gonna be an Angel of Death for the Terran, against the Terran people. Which is real fucked up if you think about the emotional, like, the thought process that it takes to come to that conclusion. Oh, I'm not gonna genocide my whole planet. Yours, though? Fair game. At least that's what it sounds like he's saying. In reality, it's more like, he has to choose between life on one planet, living or dying, and life on the other. Because only one of them can survive. Like, the entirety of Terra is predicated upon Garland's plan working and just migrating all of the souls from one planet to the other. So without that civilization does not exist, without all of those souls. So Zidane, by wanting to stop the flow of souls from one to the other, is essentially condemning Terran civilization. Teach me many more important things than tasty munchies. And this is Zidane's moment of total existential breakdown, with a little bit of mind control thrown in there. This is also where it kind of becomes a big existential parable about depression. You know, what with being an empty vessel, which could not possibly be more on the nose on that allegory. Yeah, but you didn't see that part coming. Oh, also the music here rocks. So he hasn't completely lost it at this point. he's still pretty cognizant of what's going on. It's everything that he believes in has kind of been shaken. Oh, this arrangement is perfect! Is Zidane the best Final Fantasy protagonist? Is he the most fully formed character to lead a Final Fantasy game? I love Terra, but I'm gonna have to say, hell yes. Zidane's... Oh, hi. I was much louder in my headphones than I anticipated. Oh, and the best part about the theme here? I think it's called Not Alone? It persists into the battles. Also, these are not random battles. These are all scripted to appear. And I think you're supposed to be a little bit weaker by the time you get to this point. Because the whole point is that Zidane's friends show up and give him a hand when he is struggling. I mean, not just struggling emotionally, but that's all supposed to be represented within the fight. And if you come here and you're too strong, it loses a little bit of that emotional resonance, I think, because no, you are, within the context of the fight, not having a hard time whatsoever. You are not in any danger if you are strong enough to have fought Ozma by this point. But the point still stands. Like, they're using the random battles to kind of extend the range of the metaphor that they're using. Which is my favorite way for video games to further their own narratives, is by incorporating the narrative into the actual gameplay. Games which do that are my goddamn favorite. And we get so many good examples of that going on in FF9. Like, just recently we had the example of them showing Amarant's character growth by having him finally start doing victory poses. You know, how he finally started to trust everyone else and feel like he was a part of the group. And so he started participating in their silly little end-of-fight fanfare victory poses. Using the mechanics of the game to give context to the narrative and the characterization. So good. Perfect. And then they turn it around a little bit. It's not just his friends coming to buoy him when he needs it most. It's presenting this situation where his friends are themselves also in danger without him, so he needs to watch their backs as well. This might be a little bit more of a serious situation in which that's needed too, since Tina is still really weak. Steiner has this fight handled by himself, if need be, though. So they stepped in for him, and then presented a situation in which they needed him to step in. So Pandemonium as a dungeon is not the most complex. There's not like all these really cool puzzles and all this stuff going on in a typical like good JRPG dungeon. It's such a good storytelling dungeon! Oh my god, Pandemonium is wonderful! Every single beat in Pandemonium, I love in totality. The entire endgame of FF9. It's... FF9 is so strong at the end. I should mention that this is the penultimate dungeon. So yeah, the endgame. We are firmly in it. Do wish I had a chance to switch out some equipment because Zidane... Oh, that's gonna work out pretty well. I can get my Grand Lethal going. Hey, one of the situations where I actually want to be in trance for a particular battle, and I'm in trance. Holy shit, I do hate this mechanic. It's a real bad limit break system in the context of how you play. The story implications of trance, of course, are something else entirely. And just one Grand Lethal is not going to do it, but we have plenty left in the tank. Oh cool, Earthshake. This is going to do jack and shit to our good pink monkey boy, who's just hovering several feet off the ground. Like a good Saiyan. I'm just forever so pleased that FF9 gets so strong at the end. Like, it's a great, near-perfect game throughout. There are a few lulls, especially in Disc 3. But again, the entire ending stretch is so on point. I don't actually remember what Solution 9 looks like. We're gonna find out. I don't even remember if I've ever used many of these limit breaks before. It's like the first 2 or 3 that you get, and then Grand Lethal forever. Because, like, the mechanic is unreliable anyway, so you never really get a chance to experiment too much with them. Ba, 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 ba. Yeah! They play with this core motif so much. Like, you can feel how much fun Uematsu had with this soundtrack, how much love that he had composing it, and how much this meant to him just based on how much he plays with that core theme of A Place to Call Home. Like, it is a fertile space to work in. We want to protect you. Aww! I love Kina! Also, there was a really good line from Garnet there. I loved so much about how they were, while he was watching their backs, they were watching his too. So we're gonna go back for the other 4. And what a succinct way to wrap up this part of his character arc. They don't linger on mopey Zidane very long, even though it would be totally justified if they did. Because by that point, if he was just totally somber, depressed, flippant, callous, cynical, all of this stuff for the rest of the game, that would be earned. That would be so well earned, but it would also miss the point of the whole game. And it also has the added bonus of good old happy, very likable Zidane being back. Because he has all of these wonderful friends to pull him back from the brink. Damn, I love you so much, FF9! I mean, I could honestly say I would enjoy it less if we were playing the Zidane that we've had for the past, about 10 minutes. If that was the Zidane for the rest of the game. It would be totally justified, I would understand it, it would make complete sense, wouldn't enjoy him as much. But this is like the ultimate having our cake and eating it too, of fleshing him out as a character, giving him this moment of crisis, and also getting the Zidane that we know and love back pretty fast because he has people in his life who can pull him out of a spiral before he gets too deep into it. So right here, we're going to hit this button. Whenever these obelisks glow with blue light, we are going to avoid them because if we touch them, it will put us into a monster encounter, and that timer in the upper left will continue ticking down while we're in the fight. So we would have to redo it, and if we did not make it in time, that bridge wouldn't be there. So we would have to restart. This is the heading for the elevator coming up. The first 2 floors are nothing. The third one, you can pick up a chest with just a bunch of gil, which we clearly don't need at this point in the game. So we're going straight up to the 4th floor. And also, themes changed back. Yeah. Pretty much every musical theme you hear in this dungeon is terrific. I mean, doesn't that just go for most of the soundtrack, though? Again, I'm trying to think if there was a track that I just hated in this whole playthrough. No, it's mostly ones that are, like, all tied for number 1. This whole soundtrack is just a royal rumble of the best musical tracks all competing to be the best one. And they all are. I pity anyone who has ever tried to put like a top 5 or a top 10 best FF9 soundtrack, top 5 or top 10 songs together. What a monstrous task. It's got to be the most brutal selection of all time. Oh, you're a new boy. Wait, did we fight this? I don't remember at this point, so... Oh god, it's cool though. Yeah, I think this was from the fight that we had with Kina earlier. Oh, what a good target, too. Pick Vivi for that good old return magic. Which is still one of my favorite things. Well, he's just on the brink of having his trance ready, too. May get this for the fight. Steiner's, too. Even though Steiner's is infinitely less valuable to me, since he's going to be hitting for 10k every turn anyway. There's something about the animation that I just love. And I think that it isn't very elaborate, unlike just about every other attack animation, especially a really high damage one. It's just sudden. The damage is abrupt. Also, this is a big rang-da-bang-da face. We're gonna make sure that Steiner has plenty of MP for the upcoming fights. Because we end in one hell of a way this dungeon. Taking Devil Killer off, putting Man-Eater on, because the majority of what we are going to be fighting from here on out will be humanoid. And we don't need to make that adjustment to Steiner, since he's already going to be maxing out on damage. Steiner really is our heavy lifter in the damage department. No, Garland, that's a stupid statement. Isn't life itself death? No, shut up, Garland. Shut up. Go away. Shut up. Please leave. Even explaining what you mean by that statement, it doesn't make the statement itself less stupid. Stop. Like, yeah, you're going for the whole circle of life. Living beings are destructive, human... blah, 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 blah. No, that statement's bad. You should feel bad for saying the words that you said. This absolutely feels like the final boss encounter. Even right up until the Moogle right before the final save point. What am I saying? Those words didn't make sense. Even the Moogle right before the point of no return leading up to here. Like, that feels very final boss-ish. First, we got a Silver Dragon to deal with. And I love that we don't lose the pipe organ theme. And this big Cthulhu in the background. And then all the crystalline mushroom structures even further back, layered further. Very pretty. The only thing that I really remember that is special about this boss is that it does a bunch of wind-based magic attacks. And that it's weak to Blizzard. Ice magic, I should say. So we're just gonna spam Shiva, spam Blizzaga. Oh, and Vivi's gonna go into trance. By the way, I love all of the subtle little design changes once characters enter trance. Especially Vivi's. Where, like, the main change in his design is that his floppy hat sticks up straight, just like the other black mages. Again, I thought we had summoned Shiva prior to this. Didn't we use her in Mount Gulag? Oh, well. That's not quite going to put him down just yet, but a couple of shocks from Steiner, a couple of good hits from Zidane, and even a few powered up Blizzagas now should do the trick. The other thing that I remember is that he doesn't absorb wind. He's actually, even though he uses so many wind attacks, I think he is vulnerable to them. Oh, no. He's less HP than I remembered. And that makes sense when you consider that we aren't done. The end of this dungeon, the reason that they are so clear about giving you a point of no return right before the save point, right after the save point, God, my words don't work good today, is because the end of this dungeon becomes a real gauntlet, a real endurance test. And none of the bosses are individually all that hard. But you can exhaust yourself of resources and wind up in a pretty bad spot. Because our second boss here is Garland. Oh, that's no good. I think once... Let's see how much this does. If it hits for less than what Zidane hits for... Yeah, Zidane's gonna hit much harder than that. So once VIII's turn comes up again... How do you cure stop again? I'm gonna expose myself. I think you just cure it with Remedy. Because we definitely want Dagger available. Oh, he just Kamehameha at VIII. And it... Oh, VIII, you're so good! You're so agile. My dear sweet boy. Okay, good, that worked. No one's hurting too bad yet. But there's another reason that Dagger's really good here. Or is it... Did I pass it? Yes, I did. Garland can be afflicted with status ailments, namely slow and silence. Those are the important ones. Is that gonna miss too? Nope. Whoa! That's not too bad of a hit for Zidane with his 5,000 HP, but we take multiple of those back to back, that'll become a problem. He is healing pretty well though. And plenty of these long animations to play with as well. We're gonna have to toss an ether Steiner's way. After this fight, that did it. I don't think we saw Garland use his one single dangerous ability, which is Flare. We haven't seen one of those good transitions in a while. The Invincible is mine. And now he has access to all of the souls that the Invincible has been absorbing. Yeah, we did pave the way for this. We acted as a distraction. And so the funny thing here is Kuja feared Garland because Garland was clearly much more powerful, and we know that Zidane was created to be stronger than Kuja. So he is walking into this fight knowing that he's outmatched. But first we get this. Oh no, I thought we got something else first. Look at this! We're actually fighting Kuja! Honestly, I forgot that there was no Kuja fight prior to this. I thought there was at least one earlier in the game, but I was sorely mistaken. We are definitely gonna need to get Steiner back as MP, because those shocks, they take a lot out of him. Whew. This is why we have Maneater on Zidane. Even his regular attacks are hitting north of 7k. There we go, we have plenty of shock fuel now. So the only major notes about Kuja are all preparatory things. Do not have auto-reflect on, and don't cast reflect on anyone either. Also, don't use anything that drains MP against him, because otherwise he counters with Flare Star, which is the same attack that Ozma used. It's that non-elemental high AoE damage attack that just sucks. But you can avoid having him use it pretty easily. You can even negate a lot of his damage in prep by just having Thunder absorbing here, and still not run the risk of him doing his Flare Star counters. So he should go down pretty easily. See what I mean when I say that each individual boss in this 3-boss gauntlet, none of them are on their own terribly threatening. But you can definitely get caught off guard if you don't know this sequence is coming. And we beat Kuja for most of the fight, until suddenly we don't. But we thought that Kuja couldn't enter trance. And Ultima is, of course, what he gets access to in his trance form. So that is a devastating loss on our part. And so even though we haven't had a real proper boss fight against him, we're still like 0-4 against him now? I love everything about this sequence, by the way. Like I said all along, trance is not just a mechanic. Honestly, it's not even a very important mechanic because of how unreliable it is. It is just a plot device for all intents and purposes. Like, it's essentially just power derived from a surge of emotions, so it's a big shonen anime power-up. And Kuja cannot naturally enter trance. He was kind of robbed of the emotional agency as a child to do that, so he turned out to be kind of a psychopath. And he doesn't process emotions like everyone else in the story. So instead, he absorbed a bunch of souls and used all of them at once to force a trance to happen. And then, this. You can never build an eternal kingdom. Do you think a defect like you could last forever? They're all supposed to be immortal beings, right? Built you to last only until the worthy genome Zidane came of age. There's a limit on your life. You'll be dead soon. Even as I die, you'll have died without ever leaving your mark on the world. This is all news to Kuja. By the way, structurally, we pointed out how this is really similar to FF6, with a little bit of 4 thrown in. But Kuja is clearly positioned as this game's Kefka, right? And at first, it seemed like our Emperor Gestalt was Queen Braun, who Kuja killed earlier, just like Kefka killed the Emperor. But Garland is the actual Emperor Gestalt, and Kuja kicks him over the edge of pandemonium just like Kefka. And this is the moment where I learned to love Kuja. Not just as a fun, hateable monster, not just as a villain, as a character. Okay, let's talk about that a little bit. It's weird how long it takes, but Kuja becomes this really interesting, fully formed character right at the end of the game. And I kinda love it. This whole scene is why I call Kuja a good villain. He's not only hateable right away, he doesn't just do all this despicable stuff. He becomes this really understandable monster right at the end. Because the whole game, he's just, like, kind of generic evil. He's like a more subdued Kefka. He's not really a character, though, is he? And then all of the sudden, he makes complete sense. Also, love the Grondstalker eyes all over here. That's just good old art. But Kuja is... fuck, I love Kuja. Kuja is so cavalier with all of the atrocious things that he does. Not just because he's this generically evil psychopath. That's part of it, but because nothing really means anything to him. He has no conception of mortality. He doesn't know what it's like to be mortal. He has no care for all of these people that he's just going to outlive. So he just doesn't get attached to anything or anyone and does whatever he wants because it's all a game to him. And then all of a sudden, he finds out that he's just as mortal as everyone else. There's a finite time span on his life. And all of a sudden, again, mortality becomes this existential crisis for him. When he previously thought he would live forever, and he just breaks. He goes into complete denial. Remember all that time back with VIII when I talked about how the primary theme of this game is mortality? And handling the idea of dying one day? It comes full circle with Kuja. Kuja essentially gets the news that he's terminally ill. Like, that's the best metaphor that I think I can find for it. Except sudden mortality is the terminal illness diagnosis for an immortal being, or someone who thought he was immortal. And he can't handle that. So yeah, this is a perfect twist. It's not the biggest shock to the player either. It doesn't really change that we have to stop him or anything. It changes really nothing about what we're doing. But it changes everything for him. And it changes our understanding of this previously really one-dimensional character. But in that revelation and how he handles it, we find out why he was so why he seemed so one-dimensional. Why he seemed just this generic evil bad guy. And it has nothing to do with like a tragic backstory. He doesn't suddenly become empathetic, but he becomes really understandable. You never sympathize with Kuja, but you know exactly what is going on with him. You suddenly understand why he does all of this evil shit. Because nothing means anything to him. He's going to outlive everything. So everyone else are just like these toys with finite shelf lives. And he can do whatever he wants with those toys. It does not matter to him. There's no reason for him to get emotionally attached. If he was even capable of that. And then that existential moment of, like, I don't know how to handle the idea of mortality. Like, Garland just told him that he's eventually gonna die one day. Every gear in his head grinds to a halt. That might be FF9's greatest trick, is spending 99% of the game letting you think that because it's so reverent and nostalgic towards the other games that they're just gonna do Kefka again. They let you linger on that thought. And it's fine. Kuja's fine. We all loved Kefka. Even though Kefka was pretty thin at the end of the day, everyone loved him because Kefka loved what he did, which is just being evil as shit. Kefka loved it. So we loved him. He was charismatic evil. So a villain like Kefka worked in 6, in FF9 redoing Kefka would feel a little bit creatively bankrupt, but it would be fine. I don't know that Kuja would have gone down as one of the best FF villains, because they're just essentially doing something again. They're just doing something that was great and beloved before and taking a second swing at it. But that's the best part of this deception. Kuja's just budget Kefka until all of a sudden he's not. They spend so long convincing you that they're doing one thing using the groundwork laid by other games. And they do this by beating you over the head by saying, like, look how much we love the other Final Fantasies. Everything is an homage. I think that's part of why that scene is so powerful. And why it cements Kuja as such a memorable villain. It's not just because of all of the terrible things that he does throughout the game. And he has a body count. He has a civilization count by the end of this game. Or by even this point in the game, and now the entirety of Terra. He would be memorable for all of the pain and loss he caused, and how much he emotionally devastated these main characters we've come to know and love. But what finally cements him as this great character is this scene that is such an excellent subversion of expectations and such a deconstruction of what they have done before, that it's perfect. It is totally perfect. So here is... oh shit. This is gonna be a long episode. So this episode has been an hour-long thesis on why Pandemonium is the best dungeon in the game. It's very good. And this is so cool, and such a fitting pairing of having the genomes come and live and start life anew in the Black Mage Village. Because they were both created in similar manners to be empty vessels. And somewhere along the lines, they became more than that. And now they're just exploring what it means to be alive, what it means to be, what it means to have personhood and individuality, and kind of exploring that. So they fit really well together. And this is our big, alright, what do we need to do to get ready for the end game? By the way, at some point we transitioned from Disc 3 to Disc 4. So we are now on to the final disc, which, as I've said before, is literally just the final dungeon, plus getting access to Gaia's open world again, to do any cleanup that you might need to do. And I love this, because if Kuja's gonna be his Zidane's brother, then yeah, he's taking Makoto on as his little sister. Alright, so we're going back to the Ifa tree for the end game, and we are going to do that next time. What a fitting party to do that with, too. So, thank you all for watching. Take it easy. Have a good one, everyone.